So LeBron James is going to Philly. How about Bronny?
Listen, I talked to Rich Paul about it, and he said they are not a package deal. This is not set up where LeBron goes to Philly and Bronny necessarily follows. Some of that could be roster construction right now. I don't even know if they have a roster spot to sign LeBron yet. But my sense is that Bronny stays in LA for the time being.
Bronny James just got left behind. LeBron signed with the 76ers, chasing one more ring, and his own agent confirmed the two of them are not a package deal. So after 2 whole years of talking about how much sharing a locker room with his son meant to him, LeBron packed his bags and walked. Let's break down the fallout. So before we get into it, tell me straight, is LeBron the bad guy here for leaving, or is Bronny just not good enough yet to matter to the plan? Drop your take in the comments.
What should the Lakers do with Bronny?
I mean, that's tough. That's tough. It depends. I mean, I don't know what their plans were with him in the first place.
I know, that's what a lot of people would argue.
You know, did they draft him because the
Sure.
dad said so,
Right.
or did they draft him because they had a plan for him?
There was a rumor that said that insiders know. It started coming out like a couple days ago. They really like him. They'd have to get a substantial offer to get rid of him.
So let's get right into the bad news, because there is a lot of it. LeBron James just signed with the Philadelphia 76ers on a 2-year deal worth $8 million. And Bronny James, his own son, the guy he drafted his whole narrative around for 2 years, is staying right where he is in Los Angeles. Rich Paul, who represents both of them, told ESPN flat out they are not a package deal and there is no current plan for Bronny to join his father in Philly. Read that again. Not a package deal. That is the actual quote.
Now, LeBron James did say, guys, that his final season would actually be played with his son. Remember that, guys, when Bronny was actually at USC? LeBron James said that. And the Lakers, I guess, they felt the pressure and they drafted Bronny, gave him a fully guaranteed contract, folks, which was insane because he was on pick like number 55 and those contracts aren't guaranteed. They paid Bronny a whole bunch of money, folks, to contribute almost nothing to the active Lakers roster.
Now, let's talk about the irony here, because it is thick. For 2 full years, LeBron told anybody who would listen that playing alongside his son was one of the biggest joys, maybe the biggest joy, of his entire career. He said it in interviews, he said it on podcasts, he said it to any camera that would point at him. And the second a real business decision came up, a shot at one more ring with a stacked roster in Philadelphia, that whole sentiment got left at the curb. Bronny stays in LA. Dad goes chase his 5th championship 3,000 miles away. Family bonding time, it was fun while it lasted. And to be fair to LeBron for one hot second, nobody is saying he owed the Sixers a package deal, and nobody expects a team to take on a bench guard just because his last name opens doors. But you cannot have it both ways. You cannot spend 2 years selling the world on this beautiful father-son bond being the highlight of your career, and then walk out the door the second a better basketball opportunity shows up somewhere else, without people noticing the gap between the sales pitch and the actual behavior. That is just reading the receipts.
Put him out there.
Right.
You got to see what he can do. Put him out there. If he can't play, then you got to,
If we've invested this much in the guy, right? Like you said, like a lot of people weren't happy. Some people will say, yeah, it was like, a demand, right? That was put on the Lakers.
Yeah.
So, but they put resources into him. They've seen some growth. You've seen some. Would you agree that there's been some growth?
I mean, a little bit. A little bit. But he needs to grow more. But I think now that his dad's gone, put him out there, see if he can do what he can do.
And the online reaction has picked up on that exact contradiction fast. Fan accounts have been circulating the timeline side by side. LeBron's old quotes about how much he cherished sharing a locker room with his son, right next to the Rich Paul statement confirming there is no plan to reunite them. The optics write themselves. One popular basketball account summed up the mood simply, pointing out that a father who spent 2 years talking about family sacrifice just packed his bags for a better roster the moment the opportunity came along. Whether you think that is a fair read or an overly harsh one, it is clearly the read a lot of people are landing on right now.
Well, there was one theory trending on the internet. The guy was like, hey, a lot of people think that LeBron would want to, wherever he goes next, would want to bring Bronny along, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying the Lakers got to hold the king's son ransom. Like if they want Bronny, they're gonna have to give him something real good. Right? Is that crazy?
That's crazy, but I mean, I think it's a good situation for him. I think he needs a space away from his dad. My opinion. I think he should let him do his own thing. Okay, he got here. What can you do? You know, you don't gotta follow your dad around. He gone. He about to be done anyway. So
that's right. That's
do
right.
Your thing. Let his dad go and see what you can do. If he can't play, he can't play. Then you got to put him out there and see what he can do.
You got to try it. We've already put this much in it.
It seems like your baby. Okay, put him out there. Can he play or no?
Yeah.
All right, now let's get into Bronny himself, because the stats do not exactly make the case that he was ready to stand on his own 2 feet in the first place. His rookie season, he played in 27 games, saw the floor for about 6.7 minutes a night, shot a rough 31.3% from the field, and averaged 2.3 points a game. That is not a prospect breaking out. That is a guy getting minutes because of who his father is, and everybody watching knew it. Then, this past season, year 2, he did improve some. He appeared in 42 games, a real jump from 27, and he shot 40.9% from the field, which is a legitimate step forward. His scoring average ticked up to 2.9 points a game. Progress, sure. But let's be honest about what that progress actually looks like. Going from 2.3 points a game to 2.9 points a game is not exactly a breakout campaign. That is the stat line of a guy who is still very much finding his footing at the NBA level, 2 years in.
Bronny, for one thing, shouldn't even be in the NBA. Yes, he can play in the G League, because he's actually proven that. But at the real level, the big time level, nah, he really can't play. Just that simple. He's actually an undersized guard. I mean, he just can't play. He can't shoot. He can't.
And here is the number that really tells the story. The Lakers had to decide whether to guarantee Bronny's contract for next season, worth about $2.3 million, and they only made that call official in late June, right up against the deadline. They did not rush to lock him up early. They let it ride to the wire before deciding not to waive him. When a team waits that long to guarantee a guy making league minimum money, that tells you the roster spot was never a sure thing. It tells you the front office was weighing it, not celebrating it. Now, in fairness, the reporting does say the Lakers staff genuinely likes what they have seen from him behind the scenes, calling it a fondness for the kid. That is a real source detail, and it deserves mention. But liking a guy's work ethic and practice and actually trusting him with real playoff minutes over proven NBA guards are two very different things. Plenty of players get called a great locker room presence right before they get cut. That phrase alone does not buy you minutes in this league. It is worth remembering how much hype surrounded Bronny long before he ever got drafted too. He came out of Sierra Canyon High School in Chatsworth as one of the most watched recruits in the entire country, purely because of who his father was, and he went on to play at USC for a single season before entering the draft. That is a lot of built-in spotlight for a player who, by his own actual college and pro numbers, was never a slam dunk NBA prospect on pure talent. The hype train started way before the 55th pick. It just never really matched the box score at any stage along the way. So now flip over to what this actually means for his playing time going forward, because the picture is not pretty. The Lakers' backcourt is absolutely stacked. You have got Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves as your starters, no argument there. Then you have Quentin Grimes and Colin Sexton coming off the bench, both real NBA guards who can actually contribute right away. Add in names like Cameron Card and other guards fighting for minutes, and Bronny is sitting somewhere near the bottom of a very crowded depth chart. If training camp started today, that is a lot of bodies at his position ahead of him in line. And it is not like a trade to reunite with his father is some far-off fantasy either. There has already been speculation floated that Philadelphia could send over something as small as a second-round pick to bring Bronny over and reunite the two of them. Nothing concrete has actually come from the Sixers on that front, and Rich Paul himself has been clear there is no current plan. But the fact that this idea is even being publicly floated by reporters tells you how unsettled Bronny's actual long-term home really is right now. He is not just fighting for minutes in LA right now. He might not even be settled there much longer, depending on how the front office decides to play it. Let that sink in. 2 years after getting drafted with the 55th pick, largely because of who his father is, Bronny is now on a Lakers roster with his father gone entirely, fighting from the back of the line just to get real minutes on a team that is loaded at his exact position. The safety net that got him drafted in the first place just left for Philadelphia. Now he has to actually earn it, on merit, against real competition with zero built-in excuse left. And here's where LeBron gets some fair criticism too, because you cannot separate this from how the whole thing started. Bronny got drafted 55th overall in 2024, deep in the second round, the part of the draft where almost nobody gets a real NBA future. Nobody is pretending that pick happened purely on merit. It happened because an NBA franchise wanted to keep its 41-year-old superstar happy, and the easiest way to do that was to bring his kid into the building. That is just the honest read on how this whole situation started. And there is a detail from back then that adds a little more fuel to this fire. Ahead of that 2024 draft, reports came out that Bronny had trouble even lining up workouts with other teams, and Rich Paul later confirmed that limiting those visits was by design. So the family was steering this whole process from the very start, controlling exactly which door he walked through, rather than letting the open market decide his value the way it does for every other prospect. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is Rich Paul's own words on the record. And to really understand how unprecedented this whole situation always was, remember that Bronny and LeBron becoming the first father-son duo to ever play together in NBA history was treated like some kind of milestone worth celebrating in its own right. Networks built entire broadcasts around it. It got its own highlight packages, its own emotional pregame features, its own moment during the playoffs when they actually shared meaningful minutes together in a real postseason game. All of that constant celebration is exactly why this breakup lands so hard now. You cannot build 2 years of programming around a bond and then act surprised when people notice it evaporated the second a title shot in Philadelphia showed up. So LeBron spent 2 years building a storyline around fatherhood and legacy and playing with his son, using that emotional angle constantly in interviews, and now he is walking away from it the moment a better basketball option appeared. If you are being real about it, that looks a lot less like a heartfelt sacrifice and a lot more like LeBron got what he wanted out of the arrangement: the good press, the sentimental headlines, the highlight reels of him and his son sharing a court, and now that the story has run its course, he is off chasing ring number 5 without a second thought about who gets left behind in the roster crunch. Now, Bronny himself has said all the right things publicly, and you have to give him credit for saying them with a straight face. When asked about starting training camp, he said he is confident, that his game is out of the roof, that he feels miles different from a year ago.
That is a nice quote. It is also exactly the kind of quote every single bench player in the league gives every single training camp, whether it is true or not. Confidence is free. Backing it up on the floor against Grimes, Sexton, and a stacked depth chart is the actual test. And the numbers so far do not exactly inspire a ton of faith. He has also spent real, meaningful chunks of both of his seasons down in the G League with the South Bay Lakers, grinding out extra reps outside the bright lights of the main roster. That is a completely normal developmental path for a young guard trying to find his footing, and there is nothing at all wrong with using it. But it is also a quiet admission from the organization itself that he was not yet fully trusted with consistent NBA minutes on merit alone, even with his own father standing right there in the same building for 2 straight seasons. And let's talk about the uncomfortable question nobody wants to ask directly, because it is the obvious one sitting right in the middle of this whole situation. If Bronny James was not LeBron James's son, would any NBA team have drafted him with a second-round pick, let alone guaranteed him a contract 2 years running on a roster this deep at guard? The honest answer, based purely on the numbers, on the 31% shooting as a rookie, on the sub-3 points a game averages 2 years in, is probably not. And to be fair, that is not a knock on Bronny. That is just what the actual stat sheet says once you strip away the last name entirely. There is also a sharp little business irony buried in all of this. The Lakers spent this same offseason aggressively rebuilding their entire backcourt around Luka Doncic, going out and paying real money for proven scorers and shooters like Grimes and Sexton, exactly the kind of roster construction that leaves almost no room for a developmental project making league minimum money.
So, while LeBron finalized his own personal championship chase in Philadelphia, his former team was simultaneously building a roster that makes his own son's path to real minutes even narrower than it already was. Nobody planned it that way on purpose, but honestly, the timing could not look any worse for Bronny, even if they had tried. So where does that actually leave him? He is a guy on a guaranteed but tiny contract, on a crowded roster, without his father's star power in the building anymore to soften the story, having to prove on pure talent that he belongs on an NBA floor. No more feel-good father-son storyline to lean on for headlines. No more built-in sympathy angle. Just box scores, minutes played, and shooting percentages. The same brutal math every other fringe roster player in this league has to deal with every single season. And that is really the double-edged part of all this bad news. On one hand, you could argue this is actually the best thing that could happen to Bronny's career, because now he has to earn his minutes purely on what he brings to the floor, without the noise of his father sharing the locker room. On the other hand, the roster math is stacked hard against him, and 2 years of modest, marginal improvement is not exactly the kind of momentum that wins out over a crowded depth chart full of guys who can already flat-out play. Do you think Bronny actually earns real minutes this year? Let me know down in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe.